"Mr. Coleman, the card on file has been declined." The banquet manager didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. 300 guests went silent, and my ex-husband turned white in front of his brand-new wife. I was sitting in the back of that ballroom in a plain black dress, and I already knew exactly why that card wasn't working. My name is Danielle Foster. This is the night I stopped saving a man who never once thanked me for it. Ryan and I met at a Chicago networking event 7 years ago. I was 29, newly successful, still surprised when anyone noticed me. He was charming and attentive, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order after one conversation and drove across town in a snowstorm when you were sick. That version of him was real. My mistake was believing it would stay the only version. We married after 11 months. His company was barely surviving back then, so I added him as an authorized user on my black card. I owned a growing brand consulting firm. My credit was excellent. His wasn't. He was careful about it at first. Told me before every purchase, sent receipts, thanked me. Then his business grew. The explanations got shorter. Then they stopped. My best friend since college, Brooke, watched all of it happen up close. Thanksgiving dinners, my couch after her breakups, my clothes borrowed for job interviews. She called my mother Mom as a joke. I found out about the affair the day I came home a day early from a work trip with his favorite cheesecake in my hands. Her heels were by the front door. I stood in the hallway and listened long enough to hear him tell her I'd eventually leave on my own, that my ambition made him feel small. I didn't scream. I put the cheesecake in a trash can 2 blocks away and called my attorney from the car. And 3 months later, I got an invitation to their wedding, addressed cruelly to Claire Bennett, special guest. The invitation was thick ivory paper, gold lettering, a photo of Ryan kissing Brooke's forehead under the words, 2 lives, 1 forever. Brooke added a handwritten note. A person who's truly moved on should be able to wish us happiness. Ryan sent his own message that afternoon. I hope you can behave like an adult. They weren't inviting me for peace. They wanted an audience. The reason I actually went arrived the next morning. An email from the Windsor Grand Hotel. Years earlier, I'd built a reservation profile there for one of Ryan's business events, and he'd apparently reused it for his wedding. The email reminded the account holder that a final balance of $96,400 would be charged to my card after the cake cutting. I called the bank. I'd closed that account completely, 2 days after my divorce was finalized. Ryan never destroyed the physical card like he was legally required to. He'd planned to use my closed account to guarantee nearly $100,000 of wedding upgrades. Imported flowers, a midnight seafood station, a private brunch, without me ever knowing. My attorney, Renee Kessler, told me flatly, "Don't warn him. Don't accept responsibility. Don't rescue him from an emergency that hasn't even happened yet." That sentence stopped me cold. For 6 years, rescuing Ryan had basically been my second job. "Then why go?" Renee asked me. "Because they invited me to watch their victory," I told her. "I think I need to see what happens the one time I finally do nothing." The night before, my mother showed up with takeout and, in her words, enough judgment for everyone involved. She'd never liked how Ryan turned every mistake into my responsibility. "My concern isn't that you'll make a scene," she told me. "It's that they'll make one, and you'll feel responsible for calming it down." I almost stayed home. Instead, at 6:15 the next evening, I walked into the Windsor Grand alone. White roses everywhere, gold candles. I recognized the entire design instantly. It was a photo I'd saved years ago while planning our own wedding, back when we could only afford a converted warehouse with 80 guests and borrowed decorations. Ryan had built Brooke the wedding he'd once told me we couldn't afford. My seat card read, Danielle Foster, table 29. No misses. Someone had written special guest in gold ink underneath. I almost admired the cruelty of it. The ceremony video played their whole love story, how they'd reconnected and realized the right person had been there all along. It didn't mention that she'd spent Thanksgiving in my house. It didn't mention she'd texted me for restaurant recommendations while sleeping with my husband. When they entered under gold confetti, Brooke's smile widened the second she saw me. Not softened. Widened. During his toast, Ryan raised his glass. to having the courage to choose happiness, even when the choice is difficult, and looked straight at me. Guests turned to look too. That was the moment I understood. They needed me in that room. My presence completed the performance. And I decided, right then, I wasn't leaving until I heard every word of it. Dinner ran 2 hours. Ryan's business partner praised his loyalty. Brooke's sister called their relationship proof that timing is everything. At my table sat Ryan's elderly relative, Aunt Pat, who leaned over quietly and asked whether the relationship had started before the divorce. "Yes," I said. She closed her eyes. I suspected as much. Brooke came to the family picnic last summer. Ryan told everyone he had a supplier emergency and couldn't make it home. They didn't behave like colleagues when they thought no one was watching. Betrayal, I've learned, rarely belongs to only 2 people. It builds a circle of silence around itself. At 9:20, the cake cutting began. At 9:28, the manager approached Ryan. At 9:33, the account was declared closed in front of everyone. Ryan pushed through the crowd toward my table, face going white, then red. "What did you do?" "We've been divorced 3 months, Ryan. Did you honestly think I'd keep paying your credit card bills?" Brooke rushed over next, lifting her $20,000 train, eyes already wet. "Claire, today is our wedding day. You had no right." I looked at the woman who'd shared a dorm room with me, worn my clothes, slept on my couch through breakups. "I did this," I said, pointing at the card. "That account belongs to me. You're standing in a $200,000 wedding you didn't pay for, and you're calling my closing my own account revenge?" "Ryan told me the card was his," she said. I turned to him. "Is that what you told her?" And the banquet manager, standing a few feet away, said nothing at all. His silence said everything. What Ryan didn't know was that I'd found the backups, an old family tablet, still syncing to his cloud account, still holding every message he thought he'd deleted. "Brooke, Claire's going to New York again. When's she going to stop watching you?" "Ryan, she won't notice anything. She only cares about work." "Brooke, what if she closes the card after the divorce?" "Ryan, she won't. She still thinks we can stay friends." I turned my phone toward his parents instead of the whole room. That was enough. His father, Gerald, stood up from the head table. "You told us the relationship began after the separation." "It's not what you think," Brooke stammered. "No," I said. "It's worse." 2 years earlier, I'd personally introduced Ryan to a purchasing director at Fairmont Development, a contract that transformed his small company overnight. During our divorce, my attorney's forensic accountant found 3 compliance reports carrying my company's letterhead and my forged electronic signature. Reports approving a subcontractor that turned out to be a shell company with no employees, registered to a mailbox, owned entirely by Brooke. $412,000 in transfers for consulting work that never happened. I'd sent the report to Fairmont's legal team 8 days before the wedding. That afternoon, while Ryan posed for photos, Fairmont's lawyers served a formal preservation notice on his company. By 9:40, his CFO refused an emergency wire over the phone, on speaker, in front of the entire table. Northgate's notice reached us at 4:12. Counsel says freeze all non-essential transfers. One of his business partners quietly removed his lapel pin and walked out without saying goodbye. Ryan's father asked him one question. "Is any of it true?" And for the first time all night, my ex-husband had absolutely nothing to say. Guests started requesting their coats. The band went quiet. Brooke turned on me, mascara finally running. "Are you happy now? You ruined my wedding." "I didn't ruin it," I said. "I stopped financing it." "You've known me since college." "Yes," I said. "I drove you to the ER at 2 in the morning. I let you move into my apartment when you couldn't afford rent. And while I was traveling for work, you walked into my bedroom." Ryan stepped between us the way he always did. Protecting her, the way he'd always expected me to protect him. "Do you remember the cheesecake?" I asked him quietly. His face changed instantly. He knew. I picked up my purse and walked out into the cold Chicago night. For the first time in months, breathing felt easy. The fallout took 2 months. Fairmont terminated the contract entirely once the fraud was confirmed. Without that revenue, Ryan's company collapsed. Employees left, vendors called in debts, the bank called in a credit line I'd originally helped him secure. He sold his office building, then the house we'd once shared, just to settle. Brooke filed for divorce the following year. I didn't open the email. I didn't need to know. I moved into an apartment near the lake, took an awful pottery class, let my mother plan an entire vacation without me checking my phone once. In therapy, I finally said out loud what I'd known for years before the affair ever happened. That staying let me believe I could still turn a mistake into a success. My therapist told me something I still carry. Sometimes we stay loyal to our own past decisions long after the people involved stop deserving us. Here's what that wedding taught me. The people who spend years counting on your forgiveness rarely bother earning it. Real freedom isn't watching someone else lose everything. It's the moment someone reaches for your help one more time and you finally feel no guilt saying no. If this story hit home, I'd love to hear from you. Drop your city or state in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more real stories like this every week, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. It genuinely means everything to this channel. Until next time, stop paying for promises that were never kept.